what do you call it? Secretaries?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Who runs a department of the government. They had
Right.
to step off. Welcome to the Dresden Files podcast.
No, this is the geopolitical podcast. I don't know what you're talking about.
It could be. We could just keep going with what we were talking about. So.
Hey, you want me to
not a single one of us qualified enough to do that.
You want to demonetize
really?
this one?
I'm at least as qualified as Trump was to run the country. So.
Trump.
Boom.
Okay, so Trump, COVID. We're demonetized. Death.
Oh, okay.
Death.
Yeah. Oh, God. We actually might stay demonetized now.
Yeah, right. Demonetized has been demonetized. If you say demonetized, you can demonetize 3 times.
It's something about like you're not allowed to say certain things within the first 30 seconds. Like we probably did say, I don't know.
We said Trump, we said COVID.
I mean, it doesn't matter. They're still going to put advertisements on our video and charge you guys for it anyway. So
that's
the hot button issue this week.
I saw that. Yes, I saw what's it called? The WAN show from Linus Tech Tips, and I watched that this morning, and they were talking about it. I was like, they had a good point. Both of them were like, I'm surprised this hasn't been a thing the whole time.
Right.
It's like,
it's one of those like somebody somewhere in YouTube's C level probably started twirling his mustaches and they're like, wait a minute, why don't we do this? And we're like, turn it on. And what are they going to do? Go to another platform? The other guy adjusts his monocle, so
Yeah, I think specifically it's people who are not able to monetize yet or have like not gotten to the point of being able to technically turn it off. But so the tiny little channels that haven't gotten to the 4,000 hour view threshold and the 1,000 subs.
Mm-hmm.
So you, small fry, who cannot make money yet because of our arbitrary rules,
we'll make money off you.
We'll make money off you.
Yeah.
Oh.
So anyway, which podcast are we?
Today we're Dresden.
The
good one. The one people want to watch.
The one
where we get views. The one where we get views, dude.
Yeah. Well, that's sweet, sweet ad revenue.
Right. Was there any news?
Well, there's our news. We have rescheduled.
Yeah.
Jim will be coming on a Friday, the 4th of December, so it'll be a day early. We will not be doing 2 that week. Well, we might, depending on how excited.
Yeah.
How excitable these people get.
Yes, you'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah, so it'll be a surprise. So just, if you want to click twice, feel free. But so, same time, same place.
Except on Friday.
To be determined, kind of, right?
Except on Friday.
Yeah,
just in case.
As of right now, just like last time, as of right then, that's
what we know
it's going to be.
And the previous one. So, I'm not even, it doesn't even hurt my feelings at this point. I just feel like it's part of the method, right? Be like, who else gets to schedule him 3 times before he finally comes on the show? I'm just saying.
You need to say it 3 times for proper summoning.
Let's make this the last one, though.
I didn't even make you today.
Thank you. Now I've got to be the creep at the next convention and be like, why did you pull one of my hairs? No reason. So
you don't have to.
All you people with your celebrities gonna clone them by DNA. I'm gonna get the real thing. So
yeah, but you were gonna do that anyway.
Well, I am now. I mean, it's like YouTube and monetizing. Why didn't I do that the whole time?
Unreal.
You've even got a baby. You can sacrifice the baby. Come on.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
As much as Justin might be willing, Amber will stop him.
No. I have. So
it's a built-in fail-safe.
I can't even have this conversation live on the air, but it's a hard no for me in case there's any doubts. So we'll talk offline, but no.
That's when we'll get into the gray areas of when.
Right. Well, zombies. I'm just saying, zombies is the exception. So I will not be the governor. We'll leave it at that. So you don't have to worry about that.
So this episode is chapter 8, right?
Yes.
Is that where we got to?
Yes, because we managed a pace of all of 2 chapters last time, 6 and 7. Yeah,
I left my other line in, so I was like, chapter 6, what a great chapter. And okay, 8's better. So.
Okay, chapter 8, because Mab just spoke to all of the denizens of Chicago and saying shit's about to get crazy. And she's starting to lift the masquerade pretty much. And Harry starts like, oh, this is going to be intense. Everything is going to change. And Mab isn't trying to be subtle. Mab is dangerous when subtle. So Mab not being subtle is also dangerous I guess.
How many books ago he was fuck subtle himself, so
yeah.
he's got reason to complain.
I think with Mab's thing though is like, as we see later in this book, when she's not being subtle, you should be afraid because she's being even more subtle, because that's when she's really being tricky. Like some of the scenes we get to later with like, rods of iron and the unicorn and, the eye blast and shit like that. Like she wasn't being subtle, but she was not putting her ass on the line either. Not really. So,
Yeah. Mab is the badass of this book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. There is a gigantic owl that comes up from the battlements and then like goes towards the explosion as Listen Swin is going off of the things that are now happening. And he just falls off the roof because he can.
Right.
Yeah. And Harry is feeling very anxious because he knows that he needs to be moving. He needs to go to the fight. He needs to like help out all the people. And he also knows that he needs to stay put and not do anything because he needs to save himself. And Ebenezer is like, yes, this is smart. You should do that. And it doesn't last for long. But they're kind of having a conversation of how much it sucks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is actually a great conversation. It's more like the stuff, at least I was hoping to get out of Ebenezer and like peace talks and less the family drama. It's almost like the good old days, if you forget the fact that he killed him like 15 minutes ago in the book, but, they talk about a range of topics that, no, you don't get to go charging off to battle, even though you're used to being like the guy rallying everybody to go charge off into battle. Think about Chichen Itza or, Deadbeat or 100 other places, right? When is Harry sitting around with nothing to do? He's always doing something, even if it's not very smart. Mm-hmm. But then they also talk about like, Harry just kind of like, I don't know, the conversation meanders from what I remember to them talking about Harry getting out. And, Ebenezer's like, I'll help you with that type of thing. And he's like, not without Molly. And he's like, oh, come on. And he's like, not without Molly.
Yeah.
So I might be skipping ahead a little bit, but.
It does meander a little bit. So to recap, it's like, so they're starting about like, you need to stay put in order to throw your weight later. And yes, it sucks. And Ebenezer specifically really hates it because it's the same thing that he's watching happen to Harry that happened to Margaret. Of like, he wasn't able to protect her. He didn't know what to say to her. She was getting in danger. Everyone was getting hurt and he can't stop it. And Evan just says that you don't know how to sit things out, but you need to. And Harry's like, I should have had a better teacher on that point, maybe. But when it gets to the point of trying to get Harry out of winter, he's mostly just says that Mab is being very tricksy. And everything that she is doing is to get Harry to lower his guard so that he will get eaten into winter even more. And then they try to get out, but not without Molly. Even though Molly is one of the things that Ebenezer is saying is going to keep Harry in, obviously, for a lot longer, still not without Molly. And Harry does reiterate that it was his choice with his eyes open. Which, to call back to the previous conversation Mab had with Ebenezer, was not given to him by the White Council.
Right.
Nope.
That's my opinion.
It's not like these people would not eat him alive too if they had the chance. So.
Mm-hmm.
At least they're honest about it.
They're not. Mab is.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
More explosions out in the city. Maybe a gas station goes up. But something happens near the Svartalf embassy, and so they're getting more antsy. And Ebenezer points out that the archive is commanding from the Svartalfs, and so she's over there on that side of the fight.
Right.
Then they have a discussion about the archive's neutrality. If the Titan wants to subjugate humanity, she must destroy literacy as part of the process. And so this is how Ebenezer is rationalizing why Ivy is fighting. And Harry thinks it's a little simpler than that, of just she's on the side of people. She's not just a robot.
No people, no archive. So
yeah, but also, she likes people, I think.
She might have once.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost a little silly too. Like I get Harry and Ebenezer's points, but like Ethnu isn't attacking like an accorded nation. She's attacking the accorded nations. And as a signatory, all of them, including the neutral parties, are at stake, right? So that's why it's like, if any of the other nations or satellite nations, like the hunters, right? The Latin kids, the nerds that they team up with and whatever, the Venatori, thank you. I was mixing the words, so I couldn't get the whole thing out. But yeah, if the Venatori had been present, they would have been fighting too, and they're usually like just on the coattails of the White Council and stuff like that. Like any of those minor nations that try not to get outside of their weight class. Like this is a fight for not just it's not like Ethnu came and started picking on the White or the Winter Court. She picked on everybody. Sure, it was pointed at Marcone and Mab because Marcone is, the mortal representative present, and Mab, it's her accords. But, that's why the ghouls are like, yeah, peace out. No thanks. We are the eat people. We don't want to be eaten. So no thanks.
Okay. The red cap disappears for a second, comes back up with a big black nylon equipment bag and deposits it at Molly. And Molly says, I'm just not feeling the suit for this kind of work, and tells Harry to go change. And in it is his ensorcelled leather duster, his gun belt, jeans, a t-shirt, gigantic monster revolver, short-barreled coach gun, and a couple of other things. And he says, I'm just a great big Ken doll for you people, aren't I? And she points out, you're lucky that Leah isn't here because she's out at the outer defenses.
Yep. You're going to get those big pauldrons again. What was that?
To be a lot more hands-on about it.
For sure.
Himself.
Then Molly says, I won't be here for you tonight. I can't tell you, but it's necessary, and it's got to be me. And as frustrated as he is, or as suspicious as he gets, it's Molly. He trusts her, and if she says it's important, he's just going to go with it.
Which is probably a good thing, the way that things turn out. Because it had to be her for a couple of reasons. So,
She gets along good with kids.
Right.
And more explosions. And he's getting more distressed and more assassin squid. And he's just kind of watching people wander around. Like Christos is wandering around, looking dignified and severe and talking to Ebenezer. And there's a squid that gets shot down by a Lacuna, and it's like falls onto the map that Vadarung is looking at. He just picks it up and throws it off.
And then hands her back the lance, right?
Yes, he hands it back to her.
So, yeah. It's just a cute little moment between them.
Mm-hmm. So he goes down to the locker room next to the gym, and then we get moments of locker talk.
Get busy. Yes. He and Marcone from the trailer. It's just, the locker room. They're just changing. Come on. Get your heads out of the gutter, you weirdos.
Did you forget the next step in the dressing process, Dresden?
Yeah.
Or is this some sort of awkward sexual reconnaissance?
Yeah.
And the actors in that trailer, they did such a good job.
Right.
With massive dignity, I put on my pants one leg at a time. And Harry actually gives Marcone a compliment of, I saw you earlier facing Ethnu. That took guts. And Marcone just says, ouch, that must have hurt.
Yeah.
Also, thanks for exposing yourself.
I never really appreciated before how good Marcone can be at sass.
Oh, yeah.
How have you not appreciated that before?
Yeah, I don't know.
He doesn't pay attention.
I don't know. I just never really appreciated it before. But this book, I was really Marcone is really good at sass too.
Yeah, Dresden, Marcone, and Ebenezer are like the three. Like
there's a reason Dresden hates him so much is because he can give it as good as he gets.
Right.
Everyone else is a supernatural power and just kind of looks at him like he's an alien speaking another language. Marcone's like, no, I get you, and I'm better than you.
Right, I get you, but I will not deign to bring myself down to your level. Mm-hmm. So, even though I'm just a vanilla mortal.
Pretty much.
Marcone points out that Harry kept quiet throughout the whole thing with Ethnio. And Harry tries to say, well, maybe I'm finally learning my lesson. No, that's not it.
Yeah.
The only way that would have happened, is frankly, is if you had not been present, but you saw it. So how is that working?
Right.
Dresden, while I have enjoyed working with your queen and find her business practices admirable, do not presume any sort of personal amity between us at all. I will not need to explain how severely I will be obliged to react to you should you engage in any of your typical shenanigans in violation of my territory or my sovereign rights under the Accords.
Like really? Stealing away his brother?
Testosterone size?
Or stealing away his castle.
Right. I want my lab back.
Which, I mean, as it turns out, he could have just left Thomas there because he gets the castle anyway. So
right,
would have saved so much time.
Probably would have brought
gotten
Thomas
his effects though. But like the other thing that annoys me about it, right, is that Marcone really he put his hand in the wood chipper on that one because he's dealing with fairies. If in front of Mab and all the accorded people, he says, "I want my lab back," and Marcone took the fucking castle, he would have been within his rights, but he left it to Harry. So
that's a very good point.
I'm just saying, like, here you go. Here is a burnt patch of land where your lab used to be. So,
yeah,
that would have been great.
Yeah,
yes. He lives in like
it would have been the kind of petty we would expect from Marcone and Dresden. And
well, it would have been a kind of pathetic that Dresden should be expected to have, basically living in a trap door on the in a smoldered ruin.
Right. Yeah, he's got a few $1 million still, doesn't he? So.
He keeps acting like he's poor, so I don't know what happened with all of his diamonds.
One, he's got a fence of diamonds, which he doesn't know how to do. Two, he doesn't get to have nice things, so he's going to have to give them all up in one shot to satisfy some sort of debt or bribe or other at some point.
Right. That's why he needs to open these franchises, because a Burger King and a Pizza Express are going to carry him a long way. It'll at least pay for the upkeep for the castle.
He should get a real pizza oven in there.
Also, you got to keep your staff fit, right?
Right. So...
He's not going to get staff. He's just got the fairies, and they work for pizza.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the same difference.
But he should buy a Pizza Express.
Right.
He should get an actual wood fire oven, which doesn't really require electricity on his part, and learn to make pizza.
But then it won't be a Pizza Express pizza.
No, but it'll deepen the connection because it'll be handmade, and they'll be even more loyal.
If he gets a wood fire oven, I'm afraid of him making it Chicago style, in which case it's not worth it. Like
he
already gets from Pizza Express. I don't think it's Chicago style.
Just saying, if I could bring the dig in one more time, it's worth it. So
yeah. Is it actually ever really described if it's a deep dish or not? It's just as pizza. Could be deep dish.
It's chain pizza. There's no way it's deep dished, and even if it is, it is not normal Chicago deep dish.
Exactly. Yeah, that was going to be.
You can't be flipping it out Domino style and be actual deep dish with the amount of time that takes.
So the locker room.
Yeah. So they are measuring testosterone sizes, and Marcone just points out, "I have no intention of dying tonight," which he's actually able to say with confidence.
Right.
I only wish you to be aware that I mean to continue as I have begun. After tonight, I will still be here, and you, by God, will show respect. And he's like, or what? I will pursue my rights under Mab's Accords, and she will not protect you.
Well, if Harry steps out of line, but there's a whole
sounds like I should let the Accords fall. If that's what you're saying. Just let the whole thing burn.
Yeah.
Not quite.
And Harry, like, yeah, if I get caught breaking the laws, Mab is not going to protect because the laws are really important, and he'll be host. But as long as we're being honest, Harry says, you should probably know that I still think you're a prick. I still think you're responsible for a lot of good people getting hurt, and I'm going to tear you down one day. And the thing that is scariest about this entire book is when people smile.
Right.
Marcone smiles and says, excellent, and then leaves the locker room.
Well, they have a little bit of a conversation about Schrodinger's courage, right, as part of that. So
yeah, I kind of skipped it because it was like, that took guts and it was brave. Yeah. It's like or the insurance adjuster is just going to like screw me no matter what.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay, back to the roof, and Harry has his normal get up, and it's too hot in summer for his leather duster, but he's wearing it anyway.
Well, function over comfort.
And then
Not the first time we've heard that.
Nope. Because he's a big
Won't
baby.
be the last either.
Oh no.
Or he could just learn to enchant a T-shirt, and this wouldn't be such a big deal.
What about his arms?
Well, he
You
keeps
want
them in
to
his sleeves.
ink on him?
Yeah. Oh, we should totally do ink. Yeah.
All right, that's
He's
it.
gonna have to go old school, like Maori style, because you can't use an electric one on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
not
someone's
like
gonna have to like chisel and hammer it into him,
Yeah.
which would be amusing. But I mean, he's not gonna do it.
I mean, he won't even feel it anyway.
That's true. At the moment, he won't. So now's the time.
Would the Winter Mantle
Jim,
heal
if
the
you watch
tattoo
this
before it can
episode,
stick?
you're gonna thank us later.
What?
Would the Winter Mantle heal the tattoo before it would stick?
No. Have you
I don't
not been
think
paying
so.
attention to Dr. Butters? The Winter Mantle isn't healing him at all. It's just allowing him to endure more.
First of all, we don't take Butter's opinion.
He's a doctor.
First, he's not a doctor. He's a mortician.
He has a PhD, doesn't he?
He deals with people's shit when
He
it
doesn't
stops
have an
working.
MD, so we can
When
quibble
it's
about that. He's not a
stops
medical
working.
doctor, but
He's not an anything. He's a cadaver doctor. He
but
deals
you
with
just
all the
said
equipment
doctor,
that
so he's a
stopped
doctor.
working. Fine. He's
Look, if you're a
veterinarians
rear
are
admiral,
doctors
you're
too.
still an admiral, right? So I'm just saying.
Of the unimportant part of the ship. Anyway,
So then comes the
who cares
screaming.
what Butters thinks?
Okay.
Everybody
Hey.
should care what Butter thinks, and that's just that.
Yeah, I listen to my doctors and scientists. Thank you. So
Well, if you're going to your doctor as who's a mortician, you're probably not going to last very long. Because he has a vested interest in making sure you end up that way sooner than later. That's work for him.
not Butters anyway. I mean, he's also a Knight of the Cross, so we know for a fact he's not secretly bilking me for money. So
Yeah, he's shitty at that too.
yeah, bilking people for money.
Sure, that's what I meant.
Okay. So up on the roof, Earl King is pointing out that the things are moving and some of his troops are moving around and everyone is getting closer. And again, it's like, okay, keep focused. Don't go out and do anything stupid. Be focused. But the fires and all of the contacts are happening even closer. And this is when Einherjar actually points out the Huntsmen, I think, for the first time and is trying to fire at them. And it doesn't really do much.
Because they just
Marcone-
get off the street and into people's houses.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So Marcone said, hold fire unless the enemy engages us. And so they stop firing at the neighborhood and the Huntsmen just go into houses and people are screaming. The people who lived on Harry Dresden Street, and they are only being targeted because Marcone set up shop in his castle on where Harry lived because his neighbors are going to be affected by Harry. And all of his guilt just wrapped up in one thing.
It's
People are
so
screaming.
And then the
fucking
baby.
stupid.
Yeah.
Like,
These
Yeah,
neighbors never had any communication with, as far as we know. But no, they lived on my block, and this was my area, so it's mine.
as far as we know, because the books are from the perspective of a rough weekend of Harry Dresden as opposed to the other 360 days out of the year.
He talks to his landlady enough.
Yes, on his way past
It's
her at a
Spunko
sprint.
Creek.
He's also the
Yeah.
guy. He can't handle a conversation with people because he's got to look around like he's spastic.
That was like so many books ago. Like
That's every book.
It's ongoing. It's not like that
That
was a
condition
temporary
hasn't
thing.
gone away. If this first chapter is supposed to tell us anything,
yeah.
So Dresden is very pointedly saying, we have to help them. And even Vadarung is saying, that is not our role in this fight. And a baby screams.
Oh,
And Ebenezer says, no, don't do it. And Matt
He's like,
is
I'm gonna do it.
smiling.
I'm gonna do the thing. Don't do the thing. I'm doing
Oh,
the
I'm
thing.
doing the thing.
hey,
All
look,
of
he's
these
doing the thing. I told
intelligent
you all he was
people.
going to do the thing.
Right. I can't help it. It's my favorite thing. Well, what's funny about this too is like looking at it from Mav's perspective. Like on the one hand, she can say, I told you so. On the other hand, she clearly seems to understand his nature better than even Ebenezer, right?
Or even
But-
Vadarung.
But then the third point is she's happy that he's doing this while the other guys are sitting on their hands. So she wants him to defend mortals. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Well, I
that's
think-
kind of
Winter.
interesting. Or do
Well,
you think
it's-
she's just let him off the leash and go be Harry Dresden? You know?
Well, it's several fold. One, he's basically going into a real war for the first time. Even
Okay.
Kitchen Eats is kind of whatever. So what she gets to see how he operates on battlefield conditions.
Taking on a whole nation of supernaturals. This is good. Whatever.
That's different. It was different.
Yeah.
Two,
He was on
now,
their territory, for
now
instance.
she gets to
you
see
know.
if he can essentially figure out the banner, which he does.
Right.
He would know about that kind of thing. He doesn't. This, that, and the other thing. He needs to have skin in the game, again, to go back to. But he already does because he's the one who's supposed to take down Ethniu. But if he doesn't have a personal interest in it either, then what if he's, that'll help his willpower, theoretically.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ebenezer's got a vested interest in keeping him away. Vadarung is just going for the tactical approach because he doesn't care one way or the other. And Matt's like, do you?
Collateral damage is not going to help or hinder them winning the day, but losing Harry Dresden will. So, I understand Vadarung's pragmatic approach, that and he's got a few more, thousands of years looking at it that way than Harry does, but yeah, it's like, man, in the moment, most of us, certainly if we've got, Dresden's moral compass, we would have vaulted that wall. Maybe we would have taken the stairs, but still, like, we would have been in the streets, so.
Or at least taken, made ourselves a floaty potion like he's done before, land normally.
I'm saying there are options, and jumping off the castle wall was the least smart of them, so the most Dresden of them.
But the most dramatic. Yes. Definitely the most cinematic of it.
The superhero landing, it's so wrong.
And the most unrealistic because he didn't land in a dumpster, which is what exactly would have happened to him if it was really Dresden.
Right.
I wonder if there's a specific thing that Mab wants of Harry defying all of the establishment.
Like, it's more separation, maybe. That's all that seemed to be the game, like at least the first game, this book, right, was separating him from his friends and allies one way or another, right? Like, that's why she's rubbing it in Ebenezer's nose and Vadarung's nose. The difference is Ebenezer's going to play the game no matter how smart he thinks he is, and Vadarung's going to play the game, but in the fourth dimension, because he's not going to get his feelings hurt, because that just plays into her, into her game. So, he's seeing that she's winning, but he's not going to turn around and be petty about it.
Vadarung's also got time. He's going to keep going.
Exactly.
Ebenezer's on, his last couple decades, tops.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I'm the one that told you people this was a red herring. He was going to die in these books. Don't tell me you're getting all offended about this. You had him dead already.
I didn't want him to die.
No, but you didn't believe in him.
I believe in Eb.
You killed him.
When I first came on the show, it was I couldn't pick between Butters and Eb, and I was told to kill one of them.
Well, that's insane.
Yeah,
because those are my two favorite characters, and I was told I have to kill one of them, and I insta killed Butters.
Good. So you made the right decision ultimately.
Yeah, I believe in Eb. We can't not have the Black Staff
for now.
Grandpappy.
He makes it out of the end of the series.
But I think my favorite part of his jump is the fact that River Shoulders didn't think or talk or anything. He just came with him. And so
River Shoulders just going with.
Now you've got Bigfoot behind you. Let's
with more class.
Yeah.
Well, he can handle it. He's friggin'
Dresden's roar is tinny, and then he shows him what a roar actually looks like. So
yeah. It's exactly like the Lion King thing of like, this is a roar. It's a roar. No, this is a roar.
Right. Meow.
Well, that would have worked if, in this case, River Shoulders died, because he's Mufasa in this analogy.
Oh, geez. Not yet, he's not. He hasn't done the training montage, so maybe next book. So.
Okay, chapter 9 starts with them getting into a fight.
Does it?
What?
Hold up, did we just do a whole chapter?
We did a chapter.
It's not in our contract to do that.
It's only been 20 minutes.
Thanks for watching the Dresden Files podcast.
We might actually get through 3 today at this rate.
That's still very optimistic. Okay, Harry is trying.
This is all fighting. So
Harry's trying to let the Winter Mantle do its thing, and he comes across one of the Huntsmen. He doesn't know what that name is yet, though. And it looks almost human, skin the color of wet ashes, 6.5 feet tall, very lean, ropey muscle. And
very human.
Hair as a mane, ferocious, with feathers and claws and crap.
Superhuman.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I just took it as like they were wearing headdresses or something, not like this was all part of their thing. So,
which is fine. Again, it would be like Chichen Itza. They had feathery garb and shit because they were Mayan.
And they are shrieking, and they've got spears, and the spears flash, and they shoot lasers.
They're totally the Jaffa from, from Stargate.
Exactly. Yeah, I was thinking of the Stargate people.
Like, come on, they're running around with staves that shoot like bolts of energy, and they're running in units, and they've got their headdresses on and whatever, and they work for a death god. Like the whole fucking thing. It was like, okay, so they're Welsh instead of Egyptian.
Now that you've pointed it out, I'm a big Stargate fan. I didn't pick up on that.
Oh wow, yeah.
Okay, I've never seen Stargate, so I didn't pick up on it.
We should probably.
Not even the old movie. The movie was good.
Zero thing.
All of it is good.
Maybe an episode of SG-1 accidentally when I was a child. But.
Stargate is great. There's nothing bad about Stargate.
You say that about a lot of things, and I found your.
I believe in EG's ability to take issue with something somewhere and forget the fact that this show is like 30 years old.
EG is just the biggest.
Well, at least he's committed to the bit. So.
Yeah.
I mean, if you swore in Swedish, we wouldn't even know. So
exactly. I don't even think that YouTube would demonetize that net.
Yeah, and it would be all the more impressive because he keeps telling us he's not Swedish. So
right.
Jävla fitta. That was actually
La vida loca to you too, buddy.
See, he knows it.
Yet I am not Swedish.
Prove it.
All right. So they fight the
Harry
Huntsmen.
kills one of them, and then the creature's body goes ragdoll, and then like the skin goes all flabby and amorphous, and River Shoulders is still going through the house and roaring very intimidatedly.
Intimidatingly.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And there's
how many did you get? 3. I got 7. It's like Gimli and Legolas, except that Gimli is the size of a truck. So,
and more effective.
Right. Yeah, because I think it is like Dresden gets like 2, and then he comes out. He's like, I got 10, and like they don't even really acknowledge the fact. And then that's
because he's like, oh shit, we missed one.
Yeah, smoke, we missed one, which is great because now we know how they swear. So, but yeah, it's such a great moment because then they turn around and it's like, he big. So
yeah. And there's some of the descriptions of as the rest of them are getting bigger and harder to kill. It's like, hey, this is taking more power. And River Shoulders kind of says, like, these are huntsmen, kill them quickly. What does that mean?
It means kill them quickly. Like, quit fucking around and shoot somebody.
Each that falls gives its strength to its pack mates and guns and bullets and fighting and stabbing.
And then he smashes the big one with a sedan. So, yeah. So.
And Dragon's Breath shows up just because it's cool.
Right.
How many did you kill? 3. You? 9. Well, okay then.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, that was the numbers, and there are always 13. Right. And is that connected to outsiders in any way, or am I just seeing the pattern?
It's a magical number, right? Because he talks about like the maximum number of wizards that you can put towards a spell is 13, and there's other stuff like that. So
there's max bar, which we have known everyone single time we walk in there is 13 everything.
Right. So
13 in a pack seems.
Right. It's probably, I mean, if we reverse engineer the only 13 people can put themselves into a ritual, then 13 is the maximum pack size because that's the maximum number of, metaphysical energy you can put into it. So, 14 is just right out. So
it just seems weird for the outsiders to have to stick to the same rules when they.
Well, they're not outsiders.
Really
they're in reality.
Well, no, Huntsmen are fine, but the corner hounds.
Right, they're in reality. They got to play by the rules.
Yeah.
But they don't follow many of the rules.
They still have to follow some of them.
I mean, I'm
they kind still of need a body.
Yeah, because like they were trying to breathe the air and they were dealing with gravity and viscosity and things that they wouldn't otherwise deal with in the outside. So it was a really cool moment for seeing some of that stuff, right? It really was more than, it's got tentacles, therefore it's an outsider that you get from a lot of sources that he actually kind of went into, they are battling physics as much as anything. Now, that doesn't matter nearly as much as you would hope that it would, because they'll still eat your face. But it is a thing they have to deal with, and their bursty moments being, kind of an emergent property of dealing with all of the differences and stuff. But yeah, that's a good point. I forgot they were 13 as well. So.
And I really forgot about you can only have 13 in a spell. So they've seen like the Huntsmen and the Corner Hounds.
I think you're forgiven since that comes up in Stormfront, right? You know, like
you're not forgiven if you don't remember every single word of that book.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So
I think they might have mentioned it again in
quote for us Ghost Story now, because that one's not even nearly as long ago, and you hate it more. So
just because I hate it doesn't mean I don't know what happens in it.
Okay.
That's part of the reason I hate it, is I know what happens in it.
Okay, so the last one gets smushed by a sedan because River Shoulders is able to do that. And then Harry demands answers, as they are Welsh creatures, huntsmen of the lands of the dead. Whole pack makes their spears from their blended blood over years, forges them together. Very bad. And those were scouts. And so Harry's like, that's not fair. Why did they're bad guys? They're so much badder.
Well, listen, he stopped the good bad guys from going out. She was ready to throw the Malks out there, and he's like, no, let me use little tiny fairies instead.
Right.
They could have had their equally badass bad guys, but
the Malks are still out there. They're just being sneaky instead of being killing.
The Malks still get their spotlight.
Yeah, later.
But it was good. Now. Super good. And Harry starts talking to the people in the house that are still alive and tries to introduce himself. I used to live in Mrs. Spunkle Creep's old place. And the guy comes out, is like, what, the dog? Yeah, the big dog, Mouse. They know.
You see how much interaction they had with these people? Zero.
Yeah.
But they know
because the dog has got better social skills.
Everyone knows the dog. That's the point. He's a dog.
Look, if I were like a 12-foot tall dog that was 400 pounds, people would know me too. They would know me as they ran back inside their house when I came down the street. So,
and 12 feet. Harry's 12 feet. The dog is still like 6 feet.
So Harry's trying to go to the castle, get in the castle because the castle's going to be safe. And oh, never mind the Sasquatch. He's with me. And the guy's like, what? Although he does it in Spanish. Just roll with it. It's fine.
Okay.
It's all good.
Yeah.
He's wearing a tuxedo. What's the big deal?
He's got his glasses still. So they start rounding up the rest of the people in the neighborhood, and they all get to the castle, and Harry has to badger Marcone to let them in because they need shelter. Marcone says, I am not a charitable organization, but if you want to be Lord of the Chicago, talk is cheap, act like it.
Right.
And Marcone says, you're right. Talk is cheap. Come inside.
Yeah, it's such a great moment because he really gets him in with the words, with the wordplay. It's like, you're Lord of Chicago.
Well, he also has a little side conversation with Mab for half a second, I think, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Mab puts a hand on Marcone's arm in restraint and says something, and Marcone locked eyes with Mab. Then he simply looked at her hand and arched an eyebrow. She withdrew it, her eyes narrowed, and then Marcone says, okay. Whatever that meant. And Mab still doesn't know that he took up the denarian coin yet, I guess.
See, and it's funny too, because in retrospect, as we're going through this, right, why doesn't Ethnew know? Right? I could probably see Mab. I could probably see some of the other powers either not knowing or not acknowledging. But Ethnew recognizes some of these guys by name, like they're on her power level or higher, even depending on where you want to be. So how she doesn't just walk in the room, make eye contact with basically two people, Marcone being one of them, and not realize, and that's. So I don't know, maybe he didn't have him on him at the time, or she didn't pick up the shadow, or I could speculate, but yeah, I definitely there were plenty of ways to be outed earlier, and maybe it's just writing meta, and this was the most dramatic way to reveal it instead.
Oh yeah,
if he's not active. I mean, I guess it depends, because you would expect someone like you could just look at Nicodemus, but that's because he's Nicodemus. He's had it for 2,000 plus years,
right?
And so there's no difference essentially.
Yeah, and Duriel, but like you said, Duriel's active. He's out and moving around.
He's spazzing out in the background all the time.
Yeah, so even the mortals realize something is up if they don't realize that that's a fallen angel back there versus, certainly once you see the eyes come out, everybody knows. But yeah, but you've got a good point. And like I said, if anybody should have recognized it, it should have been Ethnew because of their conversation later. So.
She recognizes him right away, at least when he's active.
Right.
It could be some. I wonder about Mab if it's some question almost like intellect, as if you have to ask the question to be able to realize it. Because as soon as Harry gives her the hint, she puts it together.
Sure. I could see that because of how Intellectus has been described to work. But
Yeah.
Well, we also don't know what. I mean, she has it as far as winter is concerned. She can just like she knows instinctively everything that you have to do to be winter and where all her winter forces would be and things like that.
Mhm.
I imagine it still requires something of an angelic mother level where you're just like, hey, is that person supernatural? And then you just click.
right.
This is a person in chat
Or-
asking where the brothers Gruff were, and in general, that made me think that the summer forces were very light.
They were. I'm retroactively going to justify it until I hear otherwise. That if the assault was big enough, they would have been out helping at the gates, but I have zero proof for that.
Yeah,
Right.
there's only 2 brothers Gruff left, right? Unless I guess
Well, he didn't kill them. He just
didn't
he
he
incapacitated them.
didn't he kill the younger Gruffs?
No, he poisoned them with iron, but that's why Tiny was so mad.
Right. Tiny got, ambushed by the Hobbs, but he was able to phase out. My namesake is just chilling. So,
He's just chilling
He's
like
shown
a
up
villain.
full body.
well, he would have been handy to
at a
have
party.
at this point. So that's why I assume it's like, okay, maybe we were off doing something else
Right.
important at a place where all of reality depends
Or I
on it.
wonder how powerful he is. I mean, we know he's pretty powerful. He's above
Magog.
senior. He can take on Denaria no problem.
I mean, I tend to think he's probably somewhere around where Leah is.
Sure. Yeah.
Would have
That
liked to
seems-
see
that
her in
seems
this book
fair.
too.
That actually seems like a very fair comparison. I think, with Leah level.
He's like the close second. Again, assuming this is what he is. If he's like Titania's kind of close second emissary type deal.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is he's probably Leah level now because we had General What's His Nuts in Summer Night. The centaur / ogre /
Talos.
Yeah, but they weren't as strong. Like, they were important, but they weren't as strong. They were kind of like what I see as like Redcap. They're just upper she who.
Because they were attached to Aurora, the way
Could
that
do
Redcap
some
was
kind of
attached to
stuff.
Molly.
But I thought they acknowledged him. I mean, like with the title General, like I thought he was helping her because he had to because she's the lady, but he would normally be, up in that upper echelon. But you're probably right. Maybe
Well,
he was more
Talos
like
was
the
a
Red Cap.
lord. I don't remember if they called him a general specifically, but either way,
Okay.
if he is or he isn't, it's still a battle that's happening.
Right.
Up in Nether Chicago.
Yeah, and the other thing though is especially with the she because of what we saw in Summer Night and in the books, following that, like sure the outer gates are being attacked, but Mab probably didn't slacken the defenses of Winter because then Summer might have tried something, and Summer can't move their forces around willy nilly because they're afraid Winter's going to do something. But we know from this book especially that pretty much assume whatever Mab knows, Titania knows. So Titania has got to know about the gates, presumably, if that's the case.
Oh yeah, she knows.
So, yeah, it seems like, I don't know, it's a very interesting balance of power, for all of that. So,
I mean, we know they have forces there, even if they're just acting as medics. So it's not a stretch to say they
That's
may have
true.
lent some active forces for this particular event going down.
that's a good point. Yeah.
The only people who, I mean, even one of the mothers was there for like a hot second. So
Right.
Okay. Chapter 10. We do make good progress if we skip over the blow by blow.
The fight.
yeah, do that.
Yeah.
Skip the blow by blow.
So Castle's doing stuff, and the Einherjar started to run around. The castle's doing stuff.
The castle is Voltron. It just does stuff.
The Earl King himself came down to oversee the downing of the last of the Huntsmen in the neighborhood. A couple of the largest Einherjar are fighting the thing with claymores, and they're having the greatest time. The one that Lara left unconscious was missing Viking Christmas.
Right.
And Harry is asking some more questions of what is that place where the Huntsmen come from again? And I don't know how to speak Welsh. I'm probably going to mispronounce this. It's just how it's spelled. But River Shoulder says Annavin,
Yeah.
Welsh land of the dead, ruled by Aron once
Mhm.
upon a time. But the Tuatha settled his hash back in the day, just like Ethnia did to poor Gwyn ap Nuth.
Right.
And the metal spears is some kind of iron alloy. Harry's kind of figuring it out. And he thinks it runs on hate. In order to get it to fire, you have to hate hard enough. And River Shoulder says that sounds about right.
Mhm.
And now they have to get Harry's arm back in the socket because he's dislocated it. And River says, okay, on 3, 1, and pulls.
Right, because that's how you do it. So.
Yeah. And after Harry can talk again, it's like, okay, that was worth it, except that fucking sucked.
Well, and then we get the indication of why the Fomor have been scooping up people, which is what we always figured it was for, but now you get kind of the confirmation.
It makes them easy to lure forward and impossible to drive away with their need of hate. It's not possible to contain more than a handful of such creatures for any length of time. The enemy has been breeding this batch up of late. This is being said by the Earl King. And Harry's like, yeah, they've been taking people since the Red Court, and now we know why. And Harry's like, wait, they're breeding people from these things, or they make people from these things. And Earl King says the process is distasteful. It's like, if the Earl King thinks it's distasteful with his hobbies, I don't want to know.
Their field on hate, let's just use the Reavers for shorthand. The answer to that question is probably yes, and you don't want to know. So
no. And this will not be the worst of it.
Right. These, again, are the scouts. It only gets worse from here.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. And listens to wind as the giant owl appears again. And he's a little stiff. He says he needs to do more yoga. And River Shoulders is a little worried about him.
Indian, so. Sorry.
You can do
just
both.
Popped into my head, and now we're demonetized.
We already were.
River Shoulders is still worried about listens to wind, but mobility for teens are important for a human your age. And this is where we get the confirmation that Listen to Wind was his apprentice. Calls him Tonka, which I think is a word for teacher.
And a toy truck.
Right.
And he's reporting back that the good guys are getting hit pretty hard. They've got these gorilla squid things. And Harry says, Octacongs. And everyone turns to look at him as, you said, what? They're Octacongs. You have to have a specific name for them. How else can you fight them? I went to all the trouble to give them usable nomenclature. And Rivers says, you said you named them Octacongs. And they're goofy looking, so what not? But they can carry rifles, crawl on the sides of buildings, hell of an advantage in the city. They're not good at shooting, but if you've got enough of them, they don't need to be able to aim. And then they've got the turtlenecks, tactile necks, and the sniping at anyone with a radio, trying to get communications down. And Harry brings up that the main king turtleneck is a guy named Listen, which is not at all confusing when you also have Listens to Wind.
No, it's fine. Or the ability to listen.
Not enough of that going around.
Never. These are supernatural communities. Talking is dangerous.
And it's about time that they start leaving the castle to go do things, or else they're going to get cut off from all help. Earl King says, let us go tell One Eye. If we go without him, you know how he gets. Listens to Wind says, a lot of guys like that got control issues. It's to be expected. Okring mutters that Kringle suits him better. Kringle would suit anyone better, even you. Which, what the fuck does that mean?
Be more genial.
The mantle shifts their personality. So,
yeah, but to say that even the Earl King would be made better by being Kringle feels like it's implying things that.
Well, he'd be jollier. He'd be less grumpy. I mean, the first time you meet Kringle, he's all happy, and he's perfectly happy to go out and kill things too. He's happy all the time, no matter what you're doing.
They talk about how many people they can fit into the castle. They're not really worrying about fire code, so maybe 300 or 400, but that's not all of the city. It'll still be good enough for them. Out of 8 million
the
people.
castle would have been bigger than that.
It's got to fit on one plot. How big?
But I mean, even their little ballroom thing that they were in seemed like it could fit like at least 100 people on its own.
Right. Part of my problem is that they refer to this as a castle, but by our standards, maybe more like a keep, depending on the style of castle and the age of it. Right. So
right.
it's a self-contained fortress, definitely, but it doesn't have the extended walls and the additional buildings and everything.
It's got an extra couple of rooms now that Mab went through.
Right. It's got an extra hallway. It's got an extra hallway connecting the storeroom.
Put the injured in there.
Past that. Yeah. So
it'll work out.
River Shoulders and Harry have a discussion about friendship. He says, I'm so glad you're on my side, and it means you've got good taste, and that Harry was there when River Shoulders needed it, helped him with his kid, and so it'd be really lousy of him if he counted the beans between us that close. But yeah, Harry's fairly happy with the whole thing, and there's more fighting going on around, and they haven't left yet. What the hell's they doing?
Meandering.
Yeah, they really are kind of meandering right now. And more people are leaving the castle. Okay, so Marcone and Guard and Hendrix, and then Lara and a couple of her people. And then the White Council, Ebenezer listens to Win Christos, Ramirez, and all of the others. So they've got 3 positions between the castle and the lake, and they're heading for the opening between the northernmost 2, where Etri and his people and the Summer Lady are going for the south side, so they're going to try to fortify all of it. If they don't stop the advance, then Ethniu will never need to show herself, so they have to put up a good enough fight for her to reveal, and then they can attack her more.
Right. Yep. Yay, Gambit.
Yeah, they have to force her to use the eye to make her weakness.
Right.
The National Guard is mobilizing.
Oh boy, does she.
Yeah.
Just a couple times.
The human military will be there eventually, but probably closer to dawn, and they can't last that long.
Because they're slow as fuck. Plus, it's convenient for the story.
Yes,
they get there right away.
That's the biggest thing, really.
I mean, it's believable because you still have to marshal the force and this, that, and the other thing, but
yeah, and it's taking all 4 hours for them to get there.
There are forts in pretty much every state. It's not.
Well, the National Guard, right? There's a contingent of National Guard in every state, since the governor can call upon them in the case of emergencies. But yeah,
that's why they take out the communications. So
right, being attacked by amphibious creatures is not in the playbook by the National Guard.
I guarantee you, it is by the Navy SEALs.
Well, yes, but this is a different branch, so
they communicate. Not right now because the power's out, but they communicate.
Yeah, so
everyone's got a supernatural contingency. They just don't admit to it.
Okay, so that was chapter 10, and yes, chapter 11 is a bit more action-packed. But it'll give us
it's them running to the cemetery. So
yeah, what I liked about 11 actually is that they start giving us street names, so you're kind of able to triangulate where everything is, and having walked on some of these streets or at least dangerously close to them, like. So they're going down Montrose, for example, and if I didn't fuck up my inversion of the directions, the castle is north of Montrose. So Nick, Jim, if you guys are listening, you can correct me later if anybody else got a better beat, because it's like they go down to Montrose and hook a left, right? And so knowing where they talk about where they are and that they're heading to Graceland, Graceland is west of, where they were at, basically.
So we marched down to Montrose and turned east, heading down the streets at a trot.
Okay.
Until we got to Wells Park.
Yeah. I looked at the map at the time and then, wrote it in the notes. But yeah, so, but Montrose, part of why that's important is it goes to like Montrose Beach. And I think it's also the road that leads to the Montrose Bird Sanctuary, which showed up in Cold Days, right? So again, you get some triangulation of where they are and so maybe I do have it backwards, but yeah.
Someone someday will reverse walk it because too much time on their hands. And
oh no, I mean these guys already know that's part of why. Because so for example, like here in a little bit, Ramirez takes a break at a bench and he's like, "Oh, I've sat on the same bench as Ramirez." We've already had that conversation, so that's why I'm calling him out because he listens to the show too. But yeah, and then they talk about Wrigley being further south to them, which for some of the landmarks, like it's kind of central, but Wrigley is kind of like northwest, if I remember right, of like downtown proper. But the bean, by the way, is literally across the street from downtown proper. So for reference there, it's on the west side, but across the street, because that was like the first landmark that I saw when I went downtown. But it was much more exciting actually knowing where things were and when they were getting blown up this time. So
more landmarks as Ramirez is strategizing. The enemy's northern arm came ashore at Montrose Beach. Lara's mercenaries are north of us in Uptown. They're holding the line at Lakeshore Drive, but they got pushed back to Sheridan. And Marcone's people are down south of us, and they're dug in around Wrigley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is also important because that's the neighborhood that the Carpenters are in. So
yeah. I need to actually pay attention to a map, and I didn't bother doing it ever when doing this.
Well, and there's a like an unofficial Dresden Google map too that has like most of these landmarks on them too. So
okay.
I use that quite heavily while I was out there. I was like, if I'm passing by a landmark, I want to know. So
and the other wardens are getting rather worried of Ramirez because he's visibly in pain.
Oh no.
He's not an
and
asshole
they're going
yet.
to war. And
I'm sorry. What was the other book that we came before this? He's not an asshole yet. What a comment.
He's not the biggest of the assholes yet.
By definition, he is.
Some banter between Ramirez and Wild Bill, worried about like if they have to retreat, he might not be able to keep up. Ripper Shoulders like squats right next to Chandler and says, "How do you do?" "Well, thank you," as he's trying not to back up.
It just wouldn't be proper. So.
No, it would be impolite, and Chandler would never do that.
He's got British fortitude or some shit.
Yeah. Chandler was too refined to take an intimidated step back, but he leaned. And Toot Toot shows up, and he's screaming, "There is knavery afoot." And we didn't see them until they got there. The foe has sneakily snuck a sneak attack behind our lines like a sneaky sneak. What kind of
try saying that 5 times fast.
No, thank you. But what kind of sneaky attack? The sneaky kind. They used veils and got up around behind the lines. Now they're in the park, and they're up to something.
Right. Which park? That one with all the dead bodies in it? Oh, shit. Which, I mean, honestly, it was like, oh, yeah, should have thought of that. Like there's an entire ancient graveyard that a couple of necromancers might make really good use of right now. So,
nah, improbable.
This was like my second oh shit moment because it's like, we get necromancers too?
Right. It was definitely like, oh God, they raised the whole cemetery. And I'm like, oh, at least they got there before they raised the whole cemetery. But yeah, it was definitely like, well, you're fucked. So.
And then Harry points out the drums. Ebenezer thinks it's a war drum. So, no, that's coming from Graceland. How many zombies could they get out of it? About 50 hectares worth of zombies?
Right.
All the zombies.
I stopped counting at thousands, so.
Well, the ghosts too. I mean,
well,
I don't
and
think it would stop.
because of the way necromancy works in Dresden, like just because they're old and decrepit actually makes them stronger, undead.
Well,
so
they're stronger. You get more control over them. And theoretically, whatever ghosts are in there, you could double up. So you get the physical body and the specter of that same being.
There you go.
If you know what you're doing.
Right. Which this crew seems to know what they're doing.
They're undead. They, by definition, know what they're doing.
Considering Dresden gave her the word, then.
I'm pretty sure they know how to do this anyway.
Yeah.
They are, again, undead.
Right.
So
that's why they're so scared of necromancy.
Ebenezer has to figure out how to balance all the things that they're doing. So he's going to take the big guns, which is himself and Christos, to go help the other allies, and he tasks Harry and the rest of them to deal with the necromancers because he knows the city. He's done this before. Necromancer's familiar. Damn it, you've got the job.
Right. Dresden, the wardens, listens to wind and river.
Well, he says, take the wardens and Sasquatch, and then listens to wind as a raven, lands on Harry's shoulder, and starts cawing.
Yeah.
It's like, no discipline at all. Redneck?
Right. Yeah. But I mean, especially since we met these wardens, dealing with Kemlerites and everything. Like there was some symmetry here. So
Yes.
And you'll notice they didn't do any better this time around either.
well, apparently they're still baby wardens, or were. So
They've learned
Ebenezer
exactly as
says-
much in the preceding period of time.
It says, "Do not pull your punches tonight." Yeah, that's always been my biggest problem. All this restraint.
right.
And when Harry goes to the wardens and explains, Wild Bill is so excited, like, "Yeah, necromancers. I like shooting zombies. I got a patch and everything." And immediately made me think of Justin. The idea is to stop.
He is a
them.
little too excited. He's like really like, oh yeah, oh well, that's
Right.
The
I
idea
think
is
that's
to stop them
situation.
before
I'm
they
sure
get
it
the
doesn't come back to
zombies.
bite him in the ass later.
Right.
All right.
Yes. So just one other note here, because I kind of mentioned it earlier, but Montrose runs along the north side of Graceland, so that kind of gives some perspective. And from where they are, Inez is a little closer to their side, but Inez is kind of like upper middle, like north middle of where the cemetery is on the west side, because anyway, since that's where they kind of wind up here in a little bit. But
River Soldiers can't stand necromancers. They make the earth scream.
Yeah.
Okay. Ramirez can't run, so River's going to give him a hand and literally picks him up in a hand as a sheet. And they go to Graceland and they pass by the statuary mausoleums and the various like random great temple,
I've walked past all of those, so yeah, that's pretty accurate.
random Greek temples in the middle of Chicago. Cool.
Yep.
And Inez is there, right? Or is she?
There by the statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
were. Yeah.
Yes,
She
the
wasn't running
statue was
away.
there. It's not running around, but this is also not Halloween. It's friggin' June or whatever it is.
Yeah. Okay.
And if she had been there, they would have probably just scooped her up anyway, because they're like, "Ooh, we don't even need the ritual for your ass."
She
So-
probably would have been happy. She would have been like, oh, cool, I get to kill things.
right.
Well, Harry specifically says he knows that it had been used as a conduit by Mab when in Ghost Story.
Yeah, but her statue's been gone before
Yes.
that. She is a thing. Whatever, even if she was used as a conduit, if she was just a proxy, she is her own thing. Deadbeat,
Yeah.
her statue was gone.
Yep.
And it's a well-established legend, so
All right. They are being stealthy. There are 7 necromancers, and 4 of them had nearly destroyed Chicago in Deadbeat. But now they have 7.
Hey. And the power's already out.
Oh, yeah. 6
Right.
casters and a drummer. And they're all cloaked, and they don't know who they are. They're probably with the Fomor, and so there's bad guy leftovers from somewhere in a circle, and they've got a prisoner up on a slab that they're going to sacrifice and whatnot.
As you do.
Yeah. But they're not going to do anything fancy. River Soldiers is just going to go and attack them from behind, and the wardens are going to get their attention.
simple is good.
You could shoot him. It's the handiest way.
River Soldiers turns into a massive owl and then flies away, causing Wild Bill to say, "Jesus, Remington, Winchester, Christ, he's a wizard."
Right.
That's just not fair. And Harry says, "Don't complain, he's on our side." And Wild Bill says, "I'll take 2." I thought that was a good response. So they all sneak in line with each other, and Harry is the first one up, but he doesn't do his shield yet, and everyone else gets their things ready. And it sounds like Wild Bill has a staff out of his gun or something.
Yeah, he's got runes on his gun. He's got a Winchester, and then enchanted bullets, I guess, and the rifle. So
Yeah.
so he
One
has
of
learned
the-
some things since Deadbeat.
One of the
Oh, he said he
cooler
whispered
magical
something
gear
to
things
it
we've
instead
seen
of-
for a long time.
Oh yeah,
Like I really liked them.
Magic Gun was cool.
I mean,
Would
it's
have been cooler
handy.
if it was effective. Yeah. I mean, he's shown to have some skills with artifice, right? Because he made his own Bowie knife in the same realm as the Warden swords. So I mean, there's some style points there, but it's also entirely possible that it's a Bowie knife instead of like a cavalry saber, because he doesn't have enough skill to enchant more. I don't know, but it's
Did he
very
make
Wild
that himself,
West.
or was
but-
that made for him?
I thought he made it. I thought they brought that up because they talk about it a little bit in peace talks and somewhere else. I thought so, But he's certainly the point being like the warden swords as often as not are used for decapitation, and he ain't decapitating anybody with a freaking Bowie knife, like regardless of its size. So
It's true.
yeah.
Okay, so they sneak up into position, and Harry has his gigantic revolver and shoots at the drummer. And two things happen. The bullet passes through the plane of the circle, destroys the circle and all of the magic stuff that is holding inside, and the bullet passes right through where the drummer's liver should have been. And the head whips around and looks at him.
And the evil music stops.
Then the description of how weird she looks. It's the vampire of the Black Court, and Harry knows her and says, Mavra of the Black Court, you've got a permit for raising zombies in my town.
Right.
I swear.
Mavra.
The second he said Mavra, I was like, who the fuck are the other 6 guys?
Right.
If she's the drummer.
She's the least. Yeah.
The bigger and badder versions of her.
Yeah. She brought all her big brothers this time, so.
And she just looks, oh, it's you. And it's like, what the fuck? And this is when my betrayal felt the strongest. Is he said she wasn't going to be in these books.
Yeah. And here we are. So
But it was also so much fun.
it sucks how the rest of this goes, because this has some of the best lines in the book again, and Dresden is so mouthy, and then it just goes to shit immediately, because, like, she starts explaining to Dracul, like, who he is, like, he's the wizard. Yep, I'm in the phone book and everything. And then in the name of the city of Chicago and by the authority of Cook County and the state of Illinois, I order you to cease any and all supernatural activity and return forthwith to your place of origin or the next convenient parallel dimension.
But he doesn't even know who he's
Harry.
talking to.
Yeah, exactly.
When I went like, who the fuck are these other 6 guys? And then like a couple lines later, she's like, I recommend something, my lord. And I was like,
oh yeah,
fuck.
There are 7 Black Court things, and Mavra says, my lord, may I suggest violence?
Yeah. When she said that, I was just like,
classy.
uh-oh.
Yeah, Dracul, very, not that Harry knows who he is yet, but he's crazy looking. His eyes are dark and black and empty of a soul, and he's like, 8 feet tall, black hair and gray. I don't know.
15 dogs with chains.
And this is also a new piece of lore, right? Because there's Dracul, the demon, the hound lord, which is this guy, who apparently created the Black Court, and his son joined the Black Court for some reason.
No,
Who is Dracula?
I thought so. Dracula was the progenitor, right? In a way, but he did it as a point of rebellion to Dracul. But I guess Dracul's kind of taken.
He turned himself into this thing and did this, and they were all, and he was not impressed with them. But they're there and they're useful, so you might as well.
Right.
And
So it is potentially a kind of retcon or something compared to like Words of Jim and some other stuff we've had to go on before, but we'll find out. I imagine
We shall see. Either way, it's his son, and it's got his upward progression is still. You're still gonna respect the heck out of the guy who's on Mab's level more than you are Dracula necessarily.
So after Harry's proclamation of you will stop and kick yourself into the next parallel dimension, and Ramirez is choking, and Wild Bill's like, oh, great. And even Yoshimo didn't know who he was talking to, but Chandler says, that is Dracul. And Harry's, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oops.
Yeah. And Dracul smiled as if genuinely delighted and said, wise enough to know, but not wise enough to run. Wizards, arrogant, take them, my children. And that is the end of the chapter and where we will leave off.
Yay. We did it.
Yay.
Really, it stopped there.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
that's
that's
not
a perfectly natural place to stop.
Yeah. I didn't break out at chapter 12 in my notes. That's why. So this whole thing ran together.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we did good progress this time.
Did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 chapters, right?
Mm-hmm. Versus 2.
Wow, look at the progress we've made.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just wait until we get to the fighting, and you do kind of have to go blow by blow. Like, we're still able to skip over a lot of this shit because it's like, well, then this person gets ganked, and this person gets eaten, and this person's in a black hole. So.
Yeah, but the next couple chapters are going to be probably slow because there's big shit happening. But that it's going to take us 4 weeks to get to, because in the 2 weeks we were going to talk to Jim. So,
So the rest of y'all are just going to have to read this book.
Yeah. All right. Plug any.
Do your
plug,
homework.
Plug.
Plug what?
Plug anything.
We have nothing.
Yeah, we do.
So you can send me money at the following account. No.
Well, you have there's the other podcast next week.
Yeah, come listen to whatever we're going to talk about when we talk about whatever we talked about while we weren't recording.
Yeah, we completely changed our topic last time and made it a food fight.
Right. So we can go back to what was it supposed to be? Things that should have succeeded but didn't. You know?
Yeah.
So, like, how do you fuck this up, Disney or whoever? So.
Or anyone else.
It doesn't have to be Star Wars. I've actually got an even better example than Star Wars for Disney, but
Oh, that's good.
yeah, nobody cares. So
probably not. Is it Artemis Fowl?
Nope.
Oh
No,
my fucking god!
That would probably be a good one too, but I don't have the investment in the history with that series.
I read that as a kid growing up. I've only seen the trailer, and I do not need to see any more than that.
See what you did?
That's fine. We're at the end of the episode.
How can you?